it's time to move on from Phase 1 and start getting into a little bit of Phase 2. And what better way to do that than with the first edition into the Phase 2 series, Iron Man 3. So let's talk now strictly Iron Man 3 here, and then we'll move on to what's coming up with Phase 2 of the other films a little bit later on. But when it comes to Iron Man 3, let's do a quick around the horn. If you had to choose and you couldn't do a 50-50 split or a mixed or reaction or anything like that, did you like it or did you not like it? Brandon?
I liked it. I definitely thought the combined villainy of Guy Pearce and Ben Kingsley blew Mickey Rourke's villain out of the water.
Ashley?
I liked it. I agree with Brandon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You've made his millennium.
Nikki, what did you think?
Did you like Iron Man 3?
No.
Sam?
Fuck it in the asshole with a broken Coke bottle.
Larry?
I won't see it again. I liked it, but I won't pay for it again.
Burhan?
I was in two minds. I liked it as a film fan, but hated it as a comic book fan.
You have to pick. Did you
You have
like
to
it
pick
or not?
one. A
I'm
gun
going to
is
go
to
on
your
the comic
children's
book
head.
side of things because I think I'm going to make it a bit interesting by doing so. So I'm going to go on the comic side and say I hated it.
All right, Sean?
I enjoyed it.
Nick?
I, like Burhan, will say that I fucking hated it because, well, I am mixed. I'm completely mixed. It was a blockbuster, a summer blockbuster comedy action film, and it was good if you're not a comic book fan, but as a Marvel fanboy, I fucking hated it.
Now, I'm going to go with yes, I did like it. Now, I understand, and this is where we're going to do a lot of the discussion between this. I completely agree that there's a lot of things that make you mixed about it. Let's talk about the big one, because I'm sure this is going to be the main one that everybody talks about, the Mandarin twist. I personally didn't like that at all, that he ended up actually just being an actor and all that. I can get on board with the idea that Mandarin isn't necessarily a guy and he's more so a theory, but I would have rather had Mandarin be a literal person who is running the Ten Rings and is in association with Killian.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more so Mandarin is a terrorist and Killian is the businessman being used by Mandarin and all that. That's what I thought they were going to do. That's what I was hoping that they would do, and they didn't, which is probably going to cause a lot of the debate here. I know Sam has a huge problem with this, so I'm going to throw this on to you.
Alright, the reason why I said to fuck it in the ass with a broken Coke bottle is it made, to me, Iron Man 1 irrelevant. Not the entire film, but he was captured by the Ten Rings. That automatically says to me the Mandarin is behind this. The person who gave Mickey Rourke's character the ticket to go to America, to go to the racetrack, or not in America, it was France, wasn't it?
Morocco.
Monaco.
Morocco.
Monaco.
The person who
Morocco,
gave him
whatever.
that,
And
the
Barack
person who
Obama.
gave him that was a member of the Ten Rings. Jon Favreau said that he was. So they've been playing this hand since the beginning, since Stark got away from them. You used the Ten Rings insignia for the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, but then said the Mandarin didn't exist at all and was just an actor under Killian. Does that make Killian the leader of the Ten Rings? Like,
Yes.
how does that play in now to the Mandarin and to Killian? How does that play into Iron Man 1? What
Well,
does Killian of AIM have to do with Arab terrorists?
He could have just been using them as because I mean, like, you look at nowadays the bad guys, for instance, from the American point of view, is the like Iraq or Iran or whatever the fuck, I don't even know because America's a fucking
Brown
whatever.
people.
Yeah, brown people. So, but we're mad at them. So
Get out, Burhan.
so basically, he's just taking what's bad in the American eye and just giving it a face, basically. And I can't believe I'm actually sticking up for this movie and trying to fucking give it back it. I don't know.
Does this mean that Killian is the leader of the Ten Rings?
No, it just
Or
means
Killian
he's-
took the Ten Rings
he's
as
just
like
using-
this is their leader.
He's just
Okay,
using that image.
Ignoring all of Shane Black's fuckery that he did with this movie, if we're going to justify this, and I'm on Nick's side. I can't believe I'm actually trying to give this some sort of sense here, but they saw this sort of like past incident that happened between Tony and I've forgotten whatever the fuck his name is, Killian, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it could end up saying that he was the face of everything that went wrong in Tony's life. Like the Ten Rings, for instance, he set it all up. He established this terrorist organization, this identity, in order to hide what he was doing for years.
But see, that's the thing, though. That had nothing to do with it. The Ten Rings were stealing Stark's weapons simply for domination.
But again,
Stark
the
only
guy
came into it because
left
Stane.
this guy on a roof somewhere, totally upset. He was like near to suicide here. Of course, if you're going for vengeance, you're going to destroy the guy's identity, which means his brand. You're going to try and destroy the man, which they did when they tried to get him to build weapons for them. But again, that was off their own back. Then you're going to reveal yourself after everything else fails, of course, and make his life a misery and show him that you were this person, that you're the reason for all his troubles. But the problem was Shane Black didn't do that. So we can be speculating back and forth about what happened and if it had any relevance in the past two movies. The issue I had was that they totally bastardized the Mandarin to the point where he made him out to be this figurehead. In the trailers, he was made out to be this huge villain, that he was a massive villain in this movie, and then they just threw him out afterwards and just went, "Oh, look, I'm an actor. They gave me drugs.
Look at me, I'm Russell Brand. Oh, fuck me."
It's like I'm sitting there with a drug habit, and
that's another problem I had.
They cure me. They gave me more drugs, and I got this palace.
The jokes in Iron Man 2, the campiness of it ruined it for me in a lot of ways.
Right.
And I hoped that they were going to fix that for Iron Man 3. But all I got were more jokes.
Yeah. And it also, the funny thing about this, I kept saying this, it wasn't an Iron Man movie, to the point where, the music, the soundtrack, the way that Stark's character was portrayed, it just seemed by all intents and purposes like a Bond movie.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, but they started the fucking movie off with Blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Da.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 1999.
What the fuck?
It was 1999, but they didn't just start off with like I'm Blue Dabba. They started with the intro and everything. They're like,
Well, here have a house and some other stuff too.
Shit.
Here's the story.
As soon as they did that, I raised an eyebrow in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Like, what am I about to watch?
Yeah, no, the funniest thing that I had with that was my brother just went to me and goes, "What the fuck is Eiffel 57 doing on an Iron Man movie?"
Especially because they're not Eiffel 57.
Whatever the fuck they're called.
All right,
You
I'll
know,
make a point here that I think that I'm actually going to leave a lot of the defense to Sean, because we talked about a lot of this stuff, and Sean has brought up even more points than I would have thought originally. But I'm going to bring up a point here in defense of it, even though I don't like the Mandarin twist. Sam was talking about how, does that mean that he was the person behind all the other films and all that? And we've kind of danced around this concept, so I'm going to be backtracking a little bit here. But as far as when it comes to the terrorists and why are they looking for world domination and all that, there's something that could be said, and I don't know if this is me finding an excuse where they didn't plan this, or if they did and they just didn't want to hammer it over our heads with a film. There could be this kind of an issue where if you look at extremists, and this is with like the Boston situation and 9/11 and any kind of a group like that, it doesn't matter where they start from. you get people that take things the wrong way all the time. And if you look at Obadiah Stane in Stark Enterprises, he had a different methodology for the business than Tony did, and Pepper and Howard Stark and everybody for the most part. You don't really see much about the board of trustees, but they obviously were willing to listen to Stane over Stark originally. You get these people that they are a part of an organization and they're in some kind of a leadership role, and they might not necessarily do things the way that the leader would. Killian could have been the literal controller of the Ten Rings, but he has underlings that do a lot of the work for him. And you look, Raza, I think is the name of the guy in the first Iron Man movie. And then there's also the guy who, the kind of fatter guy with the beard, he is obviously somebody who's a bit of a leader as well. And, excuse me, the Ten Rings could have been a situation where they were this terrorist organization that Killian was the head of, but he didn't really do the day-to-day operations for it. He wasn't planning, we should have this weapon to do that and this weapon to do that. He pretty much could have just been like, we're going to cause hell and we're going to do everything with Tony Stark's technology. And then these other people are the ones that were like, you can rule all of Asia with one of these weapons and all that. One of the issues that we've brought up throughout the Iron Man series has been these people want power, and it doesn't matter whether or not they're in an organization or if they're doing it on their own. Whiplash, Ivan Vanko, he's doing it by himself, but he shacks up with Justin Hammer to get the means to do it. Hammer is with the military, but he obviously is kind of like, fuck everybody, I don't care. He just wants to be like that Tony Stark kind of a guy. Stane, doesn't matter if he is in bed with terrorists, he just wants to basically control Stark Enterprises. So with the Ten Rings, you could have a situation like that. All these terrorists, they believe in the terrorist cause that Killian has made up, but that's just because they're idiots. Killian doesn't care about that. That's why he's even making the whole Mandarin thing in the first place. You believe in this crap, whatever, it just gets the target off of me.
The thing is, I can agree with you, but I have to disagree as well on the whole idea of the Ten Rings. Because the problem is, if he actually made it in canon with the rest of the movie, it would have worked. You know, because as I said, we can all come to our own assumptions in regards to what we feel the identity of the Ten Rings was in this movie. But there was a lot of stuff that was in canon with the first and second movie that Shane Black seemed to leave out of the third film, which is one, as I was talking to Sean about a while ago, the arc reactor, the reactor in his chest. It no longer powers the suit. You know, suddenly he goes from having this as the main source of power for this suit to charging the bloody thing off electricity.
Right.
Well, that's one of the situations where I want to throw this to Sean, because you were much better at arguing in defense of the film than I was when we were originally talking about it. So
I was. Oh,
go
God.
for it.
Oh God, it's all on me now. Well, the Mr. Burhan's problem with the arc reactor, those issues have been present ever since the first film. We're led to believe that it's an energy source. It's like the next step up. Like if nuclear power is the current latest and greatest, no matter all the potential hang-ups aside, then the way they speak about the arc reactor is it is the next step up from where it is a higher powered, cleaner energy source. If that were the case, then as we see in the end of Iron Man 1, Tony goes to fight Stane with his old Mark I chest piece. And you hear the whole Jarvis thing, the Mark I chest piece wasn't designed for sustained flight, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's an energy source. You can't deplete an energy source. He wouldn't run out of power in the suit. The suit would maintain a constant minimum because it wouldn't have access to the full reserve of the power that it was designed to get.
Well, no, it would have burned out the palladium core.
And that's the main issue here, because the fact is, when he designed the first one, it was a beta. it was in a stage where it was in development. It wasn't set in stone how this thing would operate, or if it would like burn out after powering a suit at that level. Now the one that he had, what was fully functioning, was taken out of his chest by Stain. My issue is, how can you go from that and in the second movie establishing this new, safer, more efficient form of energy in the new reactor that he had in his chest, changing that to him not relying on it at all and having the suit powered by being plugged in?
Well, if you analyze it even further, in the second movie, he invents or creates or rediscovers a new element, blah 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 blah.
Listen, I'm a chemist, and as soon as he said you've created a new element,
Did you
I
blow your
actually
brains
went
out?
in the theater. Like, I was done with it after that completely.
It's
Well,
kind
it
of-
is
kind of
science
stupid.
fiction.
But at the
Sam.
Yeah.
Fiction.
But
I'm just
Favreau worked so hard in the first movie to make it realistic.
Yeah.
at the same time, we don't know the limitations of, what is it, trinium or whatever the fuck they call it. Like the palladium core thing has been established within two or movie and a half. They never really explain. You don't see the inner workings of how this new piece works. So it's not above the realm of possibility to maybe it's not as I don't know, man.
I have a question. Real
But
fast.
that's the thing, though.
I don't think it in the end it doesn't detract enough from the movie for me to be, you know what, that's bullshit.
Now, the thing that annoys me, it just seems like what Shane Black did was saying, I'm going to acknowledge the other two movies, but this is my movie, so I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want with it. And if I say that it gets powered by a plug, then it gets powered by a plug, and there has to be no explanation for it whatsoever. And that's the first thing that bugged me, because as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to do it, if you're going to take it far away from what this established power source charges the suit is taken away from that suit, you have to explain why the fuck you're doing that.
The Mark
There was
42 may as well have been charged by a child's wish.
Yeah.
What's in it?
It got to the point where you didn't know why the fuck it was charged like that. There was no explanation as to why Tony Stark needed to charge it out of a bloody back of a plug. That was my first peeve. I could have overlooked that.
Well,
then
you could argue that the reason that it had to be plugged in to be charged and everything is because it had that remote control.
yeah, that could be a bit of a stretch on that one. That's fine, but then he just goes out, without any explanation, without even saying that he had help as part of the extremis formula, or the improved extremis formula was the reason why this has happened. They take the fucking thing out of his chest, take the fragments out that were going to kill him, like nothing. Like it was thrown out there. It wasn't explained again. It was just like, oh, I don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
And again, it's sort of like, okay, you need to spend time telling the story. If you're going to do it, explain why the fuck this is happening or how he's doing it. Now,
They kind of explain that though in the Avengers a little bit. It's subtle, but if you look, you can see
what
that
the Captain America line. If you take the suit away from the man, what?
No, I'm talking about when you see Tony Stark talking to Bruce Banner, and he's telling him that he needs to embrace what he is. That's part of the reason why he kept the shrapnel in his chest, because he found a reasonable way to work around it, and it served as a reminder of the person that he became. And we see his character grow in Iron Man 3. He is out of the suit a lot more, because you see Tony realizing that he is the superhero. It isn't the suit. So once he has that realization at the end of the movie, it's like he can get the operation done he's able to say goodbye to the part of his past. He's not losing a part of himself. he will always be the person he is now. He doesn't need the reminder anymore.
Okay, so he doesn't need the suit, and then he calls on how many Iron Man drones?
Paul,
He literally does need the suit, but that's not a matter of him. It's the symbolism of the whole thing.
It's the depth of his character, not the extent of his abilities. That's what they're talking about. Because obviously,
can I ask a question real fast?
You can ask anything you want, Sweet Cheeks.
Thank you, baby. It was Mark 42, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so if he had all of those suits, all 41 of those suits sitting in his Playboy Mansion dungeon,
his sex dungeon.
If he had all of those suits ready to go, why did he have to spend the entire movie powering up Mark 42 when he could just call a fucking suit to him and be like, let's go? It's not a fucking prototype. It's a fucking built and ready fucking suit. Let's do this shit. I'll fucking kill this motherfucking Mandarin and fucking Killian, whatever the fuck. Who gives a shit? And I have fucking 40 more fucking suits. And also, not even just that, where the fuck was S.H.I.E.L.D. this entire movie?
And again, in agreement, it's supposed to be, you got this bloody huge terrorist here. He's destroying people. He's going after the fucking president of the United States. And you're telling me that S.H.I.E.L.D. is not going to get involved in this?
Right. There's so many plot holes. It's retarded.
Not for just America.
But no, it's more for America than it is the world, though.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It was like I was sitting there expecting S.H.I.E.L.D. to sort of turn up when the plane gets fucking destroyed and the president gets captured and nobody's there. And
the only thing, the only way
you're sorry, one sec, Sam. You're telling me you're taking away this unit, you're taking away Fury and all his guys, and you're relying on the fucking military, and you're relying on the Iron Patriot to look after this guy. Fuck off. I'm sorry, that's just ridiculous. One, he's a secondary character at best anyway, and two, you're not going to rely on him to protect the president without any backup.
Well, see, I had the impression that Nick Fury was just an extent of what he did in Iron Man 2, where he was like, "Oh, you got this, all right? Yeah, all right, I'll see you later."
Yeah, but it's also a much more extreme level. It's the entire fucking country.
Right.
Just
look at the events.
Anything could happen at any moment, and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s like, yeah, okay.
Look at the events.
We'll leave it to you, Tony. Don't worry. You got this.
Look at what happens in the Avengers, though. They hint at S.H.I.E.L.D. strings being pulled by some board that we never get fully introduced to in the Avengers. So, who's to say there isn't a lot of fallout happening within S.H.I.E.L.D. after the events of New York? Because here was Nick Fury, who disobeyed a direct order when it came to launching a nuclear missile at New York City. So, if S.H.I.E.L.D. was funded by some mysterious group of backers, or if it's run by some mysterious council, there are going to be repercussions.
Because but again, you just said it.
Yeah.
You just said
but as far as
Nick Fury would have gone out on his own to protect the president, regardless of anyone stopping S.H.I.E.L.D. from doing so.
Unless he was
the only way that I can think they can rationalize this is if they say that Captain America: The Winter Soldier takes place at the same time as Iron Man 3.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
I would fully expect.
Yeah, because I was kind of disappointed that Sam Jackson was signed for like how many fucking movies? Like 7 Marvel movies, 9 Marvel movies, or some shit like that, and you didn't even see him in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, it was like the movie itself distanced itself from every other of the movies and was just about RDJ. And the thing is, Robert Downey Jr. was the only thing that made this movie watchable.
Another thing that bothered me was whenever we did the filming at Cinemark, and I was asked what thing I was mainly looking forward to, I was looking forward to the emotional progression of all 3 of the movies, where he comes from this little, basically rich shit stain who thought he can get whatever he wanted, and then just a complete 180 in his personality switch, and how he became remorseful about the things that happened, like near-death imminence and all that with New York.
Yeah,
I did not buy it for 1 second. The first part of the movie was I could tell, like, he's losing sleep. He's like, what the fuck just happened with my life? But those little anxiety attack things, I didn't buy for 1 second. I didn't feel it. It's just like,
Neither did
the
I.
wind is blowing. Oh,
Well,
God,
yeah.
what do I do
Right.
with myself?
Right. He's
problem-
losing.
The one thing that bothered me the most was this little 10-year-old kid in the middle of Tennessee is his, like, I understand he's helping him, and I really like the kid, but he's like, well, why don't you make something? And he's just like, my anxiety problems are solved. Thank you, 10-year-old child.
Well, like,
With my
like,
life problems.
you know,
That's exactly it.
He's losing sleep and all, but like I understand, you know, the anxiety and whatnot, and I expected that. I expected that in this movie. And
It just
the way they advertised this movie was that it's a dark movie. It's a dark time for
It
Tony
wasn't.
Stark.
It was nothing
It
but.
was not. It was not.
Yeah, it was a shitload of slapstick.
He was losing sleep, yet staying completely prim and proper and fucking clean shaven, and his hair's done, and there's no circles under his eyes. I was expecting alcoholism introduced in this movie, and there was none of that. No fucking dark times for Tony Stark. There's a few anxiety attacks, big fucking deal.
But the thing was, I understand the anxiety attacks, but they're just the wrong place at the wrong time. It's like you mentioned New York City, and he drops to the fucking ground.
Right, and it's just like it's laugh after laugh, like joke after joke from Tony Stark. It's not a fucking comedy. This is supposed to be dramatical.
You know what?
Fucking,
The worst
dark
part of that
movie.
was, you know, when Pepper gets supposedly killed, and then he cracks a joke
He
afterwards.
doesn't even fucking shed a tear. God damn it! He doesn't even cry.
Well,
He
he's
just
not
looks
the
down and
hero
he's like,
type.
well,
God.
shit. The prodigal son returns. Oh, fuck, shit. And then that's it. That's it. That's fucking it.
You know, if I was Pepper and I found out that he did that, I'll be fucking pissed.
Well, you
No
know what?
pussy
My
for
complaint when it
3
comes
months.
to the whole post-traumatic stress disorder, my complaint is that I just feel like there wasn't enough of a resolution for it. I like the idea of him having it, and I like the idea of him, like in the first 2 films, he's like, I could take on all this shit. I'm fucking Iron Man. Like he even says in the second one, I haven't met anybody who can take me on in my best day, and he really doesn't ever really have that kind of a feeling of being overwhelmed. But I like the idea of him having that in this. The only problem I had with it was there's not one key scene where he just goes, okay, I'm at a point where I need to get over this and be Iron Man. He kind of just does it, like, it almost feels like they had a scene and deleted it. Because he goes into it. He just, I'm going to fight Killian and I'm going to do this.
There was no progression. Like I said, like, the first, like, hour of the movie, he's, like, not necessarily an emotional wreck, but, like, he wasn't all there. And every little thing made him drop to the ground. And then suddenly, within just a snap in Tennessee, he's like, okay, I'm better. Let's go do this. There was no progression in it. There was no emotional strength in it. It's just like, oh, help me, God. And then it's like, okay, I'm all right. Let's go.
The biggest problem was that
when he was having those panic attacks than he did when he lost Pepper.
The biggest problem was with the trying to make it believable is whenever he had an attack, they, with the exception of the first one, they played it for a laugh. There was that kind of detracted from it, and I'm really hoping that they don't try to magic the trauma away at the conclusion of this movie. I hope we'll see more of how this affected him in the sequel, in the Avengers 2. Because if all of a sudden he's just magically better, then that's just completely bullshit. And I don't understand why they've thought that including the humor to the extent that they did was a good idea. Because sure, it had lines that were funny, but every bit of how this film was marketed did not hint that humor
It
was
almost
going to be there.
reminded me of like a cheesy Batman movie with the humor that we had.
It took away from the tragedy as well of the movie. It took away from the urgency. It took away from the dark story that this movie was supposed to have.
Especially, it took a turn. It really took a turn for the worse after they found out that the face of the Mandarin was just this drunk actors strung out and everything, just trying to get a little bit of fame.
Who like
That's
drugs
where
and
it just
hookers.
went straight downhill with all the humor and whatnot. It's like, I get it, you're an actor, you're not really the Mandarin. I like the part that they wanted to keep a different face for the Mandarin and not actually show who he was. But every fucking line was just nothing but this corny, cheesy bullshit.
I wish
It
they
was
made comedy
good
movies
every
this
now and then,
fun.
but I'm just like, what are you doing? And then when he's joking around when he's in prison and he has like the people looking after him and whatnot, everything was just this big joke. And I'm like, you do not realize the situation that you're in. You can die. And you're sitting here laughing it up and joking around with the people who are watching you and imprisoning you. But,
See,
you know.
He pretended to be a
problem.
massive terrorist against the United States for a little pussy and beer.
Yeah, that's the problem though. It took away everything that Favreau built up in trying to humanize this and make this everything sort of possible in Iron Man 1, and he did a total 360 with it. You know, he kind of threw it all away for a bit of comedy, cheap laughs, and took away everything that made Stark the character that he was supposed to be. And it turned it into a totally different movie. It didn't
Right.
make it an Iron Man movie. That's
So,
why.
Didn't this the writer? Didn't he write like Lethal or not Lethal? Yeah, Lethal Weapon. Didn't he?
Yeah.
He did. And toward the end of the movie, it felt like a buddy cop movie, like Lethal Weapon. It was fucking Briggs and Murtaugh on the ship. You know, fucking white guy and black guy back to back with fucking 9mm. That's all it was.
Shit.
My biggest concern is that I think maybe some of the humor, I feel like some of the humor might have been at the insistence of Disney. I hope that's not the case, because we did have the potential for an incredibly dark film.
We did.
And I'm wondering if we didn't see alcoholic Tony Stark, and if they kept it lighthearted so that it would be more family friendly. I can't help but wonder if we're seeing the invisible hand of Disney in what could have been a fantastically dark.
No.
I
If
don't
it was
think
the
so.
invisible-
I don't think so at all.
If it was the invisible hand of Disney, they wouldn't have put the drugs, the comedy involving the Mandarin talking about drugs and women and half naked women in there. They would have made it totally kid friendly.
Yo,
I don't.
Tony Stark called that kid a pussy.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny, though.
That was one of the
Yeah,
Yeah,
highlights.
but it was
hilarious.
funny if you took away the rest of the film and just had that scene and
If you did get that one line, that would have been the humor for me. I would have been done. I love the word pussy. I mean, that you could have taken out.
Sorry, Sam, when you realise what's happening.
Yeah, seriously.
What? What the fuck just happened?
Anyway, Nikki, I'm not saying that this movie, like, I did enjoy the comedy in this movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you could take out 85% of the comedy and have like a couple of those lines. It would have been fine. I don't care. Like, if there was humor in it. I just wish it was a little more mortifying as what I was anticipating it to be.
You know what it is? It's
Completely.
like I'm looking up at this guy's credits, Justin Theroux, the guy who wrote the script, and he wrote films such as Rock of Ages and Tropic Thunder, and he had a hand in Iron Man 2 as well. You can see the humour that he was placing into the script, and I think for me, this is a Shane Black movie. It had his hands all over this movie. It was supposed to be it was treated like an independent dark comedy. Iron Man is not an independent dark comedy.
Let's talk about something that, because we're really like running this down a lot. Let's talk about a positive. Thank God they didn't have Fin Fang Foom.
They did though. They did have Fin Fang Foom.
Yeah, listen to Sean.
'Cause,
Listen
I mean,
to Sean.
Guy Pearce was he was a mix of Fin Fang Foom and the Mandarin. That's how they played it off, because obviously I'm very disappointed. Ben Kingsley is a fantastic actor, and I really wanted to see him in that role, but it made sense the way that they decided to go with it, and I'm kind of surprised there aren't more comic book fans going, I see what you did there. Instead, they were like, you should fucking burn in hell, you piece of shit.
Because the Mandarin was a major villain.
But he's not a villain that would translate well for the modern era.
You can't
They're
have
talking
Fu
about
Manchu
translating
find
comic books
aliens
into a movie.
and
But
everything.
see, I was fine with what they did, though. They
The
made
th-
him this. Ben Kingsley, they didn't make him someone who was like, all right, he is Chinese, or he's American, or he's British, or he's French. You didn't know who this man was. He
Yeah.
fought with so many different cultures' tactics. He dressed like he was ready for guerrilla warfare, while at the same time was running an Arabic terrorist organization.
See,
Like, he was the best of the worst of every nationality, basically.
And the problem is, well, Sean, that they built him up so much in this movie.
that's why it's
and
called
then-
a twist.
No, of course,
twist.
but
No,
when
that
they
was-
did that twist, when they did that twist, they totally took away everything that made the Mandarin matter, and they took away
did it
this
though,
movie.
because if look at it this way,
It's like
the Mandarin
it's
at
like
the
I
end.
I could feel like the intimidation through the screen every time the Mandarin came on. Every time there was a broadcast, and then I find out it's not even him, and I'm like,
It was just a
It was-
slap in the face
yeah.
to the audience.
Yeah.
Well, what you get with the Mandarin is the bare bones of it is he is a man that can go toe to toe with a powered suit. We still got that. We still got that in crazy heat mode Killian. And I mean, yeah, everybody complains about the camp a bit, but you can't play that straight. There in no way could you play up a regular man being able to beat the shit out of a dude wearing metal. That would never happen.
Captain America, the Hulk.
Who was beating the shit out of a guy and made out of metal in Captain America?
Yeah, really.
No, but these guys are set up to be that strong. Captain America and Stark, when they tangled, he went toe to toe with Iron Man. When Stark tangled with the Hulk, he went toe to toe with Iron Man. You can still.
Well, Hulk's not a
Put
normal
someone-
man.
When did
No, but
when
if you put someone in that role and make them believable in regards to taking out Iron Man, you can do it. The thing about Mandarin, he wasn't a character that was going to stand there and fight. The Mandarin was never a character that would fight with Iron Man. He was playing mind games, and I was happy for him to be in that level where he was using others to do his dirty work for him.
And
Where
we still got the mind games, though. Everything that was in the Mandarin character still comes through in the film.
how
Except
so?
except
We're
the
not
identity
arguing,
of the...
arguing that it
see,
doesn't come through. It's
Apparent-
how it came through. It's the vessel that it came through.
But it's really not that big of a... But they did the reverse of Batman Begins, okay? In Batman Begins, they give you an Asian dude who kind of looks like Ra's al Ghul, and they go, hey, it's Ra's al Ghul. And then they kill him off, and then they have the big reveal, oh, I'm actually Ra's al Ghul. Okay. So they did that in the reverse. They give you this character that looks like the Mandarin, but he wasn't. The actual Mandarin was Aldrich Kinnear. And you still get all the things that make the character great. He was the one writing those scripts. He was the one orchestrating the attacks. He was doing everything that the Mandarin would have done. It just was not Ben Kingsley.
The thing is, what bothered me a lot about this situation was they were intertwining so many stories into one that it was becoming almost conflicting. You know, you had Killian, you had AIM set up, then they had the extremists thing going on at the same time, and Maya Hanley, who just gets shot and she's done with, she's gone. Then you end up having this whole reveal of the Mandarin, and he turns out he's not who he says he is, and then it's for me it seems like Shane Black was like, right, let's do this, just have this surprise going on, let's make him, you know, the more predominant character because he's Guy Pearce, for fuck's sake. Let's have this character set up, but I don't like the Mandarin. And he even stated that he had like so much disdain for the character. He didn't like the character. He thought the character itself was racist, so he didn't want anything to do with it. And people were wondering why he decided to use the character in the first place. And the way he did it, I think he was just playing a joke with it. It's like, haha, look.
Let me
Didn't
bring
like
up.
it, so I'm going to piss all over it.
Let me bring up something that kind of strays us from the same topic. As I had said earlier, Larry and Ashley, since you guys aren't people, you know, military following the comics and all that other kind of stuff. Does this fact bring up anything different for you guys? The guy who spent most of the film being the muscle, he blew the hole in his chest and the airplane and all that. He, if I remember correctly, he was there's references to a lot of different characters, and one of them is that guy. One of them is the woman named Brant, and another one is the guy at the very beginning. I think I can't remember his name. Taggart, I think.
You mean James Page Jail's character? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know the name of the character, but the name of the actor, but the
guy that blew up.
Yeah, the Jack Taggart character is actually in the comics named Firepower, and the other guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, he is Cold Blood, and Ellen Brandt is actually a member of the comics as well. Those characters never get spoken of as, this is, here's the Mandarin, and here's Iron Man, and here's Iron Patriot, and here's Cold Blood, Firepower, and so on and so forth. Do you two, does that make you think any different about it, or are you just kind of like, oh, they're normal people, and it doesn't matter? Do you think that that's kind of cool that they were able to add these characters in there that...
But they didn't add the characters, they just used the names. They just used the names of characters out of comic books. They never... and again, this is my main problem with what he did. He looked at it for face value. He's like, oh, that's a character I can use, but I'm not going to use the character's backstory, and I'm not going to use anything that this character's done.
You don't have time to use every little bullshit character's backstory in a movie like this.
Why put them into the movie in the first place? Why didn't you just use new characters?
That's the same problem that all X-Men movies have.
Yeah,
they're just putting little nods into the source material. You're looking at it way too hard.
You're using someone's name, but you've got nothing that makes the character work. It's like Ellen Brandt. She had nothing to do with the Iron Man story at all. But boom, she's in there, and she's going to be like this fire-powered little creature.
Well, if I'm going to bring up, because I argue in favor of using cameos and stuff. Now, to throw this on to Larry. Now, Eric Savan is the character's name. I just looked it up. He's Cold Blood. Cold Blood is somebody who is in the army and is resurrected later on as a cyborg, and that's his character. Do you, Larry, think that is kind of cool that they had a cyborg military guy as a villain, and it's essentially the same kind of thing? Or do you think, oh, that doesn't really matter, I don't care, he was just a normal guy anyway?
Yeah, he made. I didn't really care. They really just kind of, I didn't like the villain. I feel you're gonna advertise one thing and then fucking show me another, and then you're gonna fucking go ahead and make this dude be able to be hot enough to fucking slice Iron Man's indestructible armor. That pissed me off. So, yeah, I don't fucking care for him.
What do you think, Ashley?
I really actually like the little nods. I think it's more interesting, and I like when you explain things to me afterward, oh, this person's from this person did that. I think it's really cool.
What do you think, Brandon? You haven't said anything in a while.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to take everything in. Look, I think the big thing is we could say everything we want, but these are adaptations of the comic books, and I think they did a very good job of adapting this story to fit a broader audience.
Okay, the biggest problem though is Ellen Brandt her character was written in a certain way in the comics. They used the name, and the same thing for Eric Savan. He wasn't Cold Blood, right? He was just some military dude that they gave this variation of the Extremis formula to, that didn't explode and ended up becoming the muscle, right? That's fair enough. But you could have named him anything else and it still would have been the same thing. You didn't have to give him these characters' names and get people's hopes up, getting fanboys' hopes up, saying, oh, they're going to be these characters. What are they going to be doing in an Iron Man movie? What appearance are they going to make? And for me, you could have done, named the character Reed Richards, yeah, and people still would have been pissed off. Because you're naming them after a comic book character.
Yeah, but I think you're talking about, you name him Reed Richards. It's different when you talk about characters that do not matter. I mean, Even right then, you were saying you keep calling her Maya Hanley. It's Maya Hansen.
Yeah, but on the
She
but at the end of
served
the day,
her
she's supposed
purpose
to
in
be
the
the
movie.
same. She's supposed to be the same character from the whole extremist story.
But they're not
And
They're not making an adaptation of that story. They're taking elements of it. The same as
No,
they
he's
didn't do the Long Halloween for Batman Begins. They just did parts of it.
no. What he did was, I see that this guy's breathing fire, so we're going to make all the extremist guys breathe fire. That's all he did. He didn't sit there and say,
Who else
okay,
breathed fire?
all of
Bing, bang, boom.
them had
He was
the ability. They all heating up. They were all at that point where they could just basically slice his armor up with their flame-ridden hands. With the fact that they were so hot, no one could touch them. It was the same story as the one individual in the extremist storyline who went toe to toe with Iron Man. He breathed fire. He was hot as anything else.
Right.
But the problem was, you know what would have helped this even more? This extremist formula, it's a variation of the super soldier formula. It's a catalyst. It's used to program the super soldier formula to do whatever you want with it. Right? Now, if they added that little nod, it would have worked, and it would have linked it to Iron Man's Captain America so easily. But he didn't do that. He went, I like the look of that, so I'm going to use that with everybody.
all the candidates that Kenyon uses as his muscle, they were soldiers. How can you not make that association that if they were using it on soldiers, then they're obviously trying to improve soldiers, which would make it super soldier?
You're
It's a
making
loose
that. You're
connection.
trying to tie those together, Sean. I can see what you did there.
What do you mean trying?
You are trying to tie them together because at the end of the day, you're saying, oh, they're using them as soldiers, so it's a super soldier formula.
They're not. No, the candidates were soldiers. They weren't used as soldiers. They were injured in war. They had lost limbs or whatever. That's how they got their candidacy.
Can you tell me how they became so evil that they decided to go around killing people?
Well, shit,
Without any
if I
disregard
don't
for
have any
themselves?
limbs and some man puts limbs back on me, I'm going to do whatever the fuck he wants me to do.
Also,
So you're gonna go kill
also
people below
the extremist drug had addictive qualities to it. You saw that with the one guy who blew up that one city.
Yeah,
He was like, "Are you gonna fucking like
This-
whatever balance
This
or
whole
whatever?"
movie, exactly, and this whole movie was about addictions, basically. You see Tony wrestling with his need to be in the suit. You see the guy that they set up to be the Mandarin, he got put in that position because of his dependencies. You see Kenyon, who well, first off, my biggest problem with him is that we don't really know exactly what he's after. That's a little vague. But he's obsessed with power. Like, he's got this need for power.
Your biggest problem was that his teeth.
Yeah, his teeth were shite.
Oh, okay, teeth, and then his lust for power. But you see, these addictions are what they're the primary force behind most of the characters in this movie.
Okay. Again, I understand that totally, but in the end, you could have told the same story. You could have called the extremist formula something different if you wanted to, and it wouldn't have made the slightest difference at all.
Something I'm going to
You're
bring
right.
up really fast to kind of throw things for a loop again. And I'm not, we're not going to focus a whole lot of time on this or whatever. But those of us who are Bond fans, do you agree that this really, really felt like an audition for a Bond film?
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
I disagree.
How do you mean? How do you mean?
Well, I feel as though I guess you could kind of break it down in like some little segments. The armor and all that, obviously that's not a Bond thing, but in some ways it was kind of like you have a little bit of Q thrown in there. You have a little bit of the Bond films when it comes to the women, because most Bond films have two primary women in them, and one of them is the quote-unquote Bond girl of the film, where she is the good one and she, for the most part, lives, and that's Pepper. And then there's also the one who is usually a temptress and backstabs Bond and dies. That's the Electra King, or I guess you could say even like a Solange. She's not a villain in the movie, but the Zenyas and so on and so forth. That was the Maya Hansen. You have the muscular, or not muscular, the muscle character henchman, who is Cold-Blood in this, and the power-hungry person ahead of them, who is Killian. You also have
the villain twist as well.
You have the villain twist. You have everything from a big set piece at the end that is some kind of like an industrial area that happens in a ton of Bond films. You have even the fight sequence where he is only using the one repulsor on his hand and the one on his foot. It felt a little bit like when Bond uses his gadget in a film. And how many times in the movie does he use a gun? I mean, they're very quick, but the sequence with breaking into the compound, that's pure Bond. I mean,
yeah. So and he was acting so secret agent in that as well. It made me laugh so much because he comes in, he's like dispatching with people within minutes, which is a very Bond-esque quality, and it's from a guy who's supposedly not a fighter. Without his
I thought it was more MacGyver than Bond, because I mean, like, he literally just bought a bunch of shit at a hardware store and made weapons out of it. I mean, he was shooting people with a nail gun, for Christ's sake.
What do you mean he's not supposed to be a fighter? We've seen him training since Iron Man 2.
And that was awesome, though, seeing him outside of the suit using these little makeshift gadgets. I thought that was really fucking cool.
What, you mean training on his own, Sean?
Well, they hint at it a bunch of times, because I'm pretty sure, I could be mistaken, but there was a line where he was talking about how he felt like he needed to learn how to fight. I may be taking that from the Avengers cartoon, but
no, you know what? I think I remember that too.
Yeah, and you see him training with
Hogan is an ex-boxer.
Yeah, you see him training with Happy in Iron Man 2, even though it's brief. And then they even give a further nod to it in the beginning of this movie when he's just assing around in his workshop and he hits that target dummy a couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's subtle, but if you look, he is a fighter. He's been learning how to hold his own, because the suit only goes so far.
He's taking out nearly freaking.
How do you know?
Bounds of
this is a man who has nothing to do but to hone his craft as Iron Man. And you see between him making suits, and even in the very first movie, he tells Pepper there was nothing but this, the mission. And he even makes her the CEO in the second movie, removing further burden from himself. There's not enough time depicted for you to be able to accurately say how much he is or is not putting into this.
For me, it just seems like a Shane Black audition tape.
I think you just want to hate it so much that you're trying to find every little thing that you can pick to hate.
No, not necessarily. The thing is, as I said, right.
I gave you a good reason as to why he would physically be able to hold his own, and you go, "Oh, Shane Black."
No,
Shane Black.
This, right?
Oh, Michael Burhan's talking. Shane Black.
I actually think it's a positive in some ways. I think that Shane Black should do a Bond film. I actually like that a lot. Fucking, he should do the next one.
No, but that's the thing. If you separate this movie from the other Iron Man movies, if you separate it from the comics and take away everything,
well, you should separate it from the comics to begin with.
On its own, it's a good movie as a standalone. But the problem is, Marvel have even stated that they are linking these movies together to tell a bigger story.
I'm not saying it's without issue, because it does have some faults. I'm not saying it's a fantastic movie, but to just completely stretch to find, oh, he's not a fighter, he shouldn't do this, why was he out of the suit?
The thing is, Stark, time and time again, right, you're saying, oh, he's been honing his craft to be Iron Man. So you're telling me he's fighting and honing his skills in between building how many robots? 40 to 50 robots out there who do the fighting for him. The whole issue about this is you're saying that he relies on the suit and that he learns to deal being without the suit, and next minute he's taking fight classes.
He was taking fight classes during the second movie. This is already established.
No, he was boxing with Happy. That's a difference. He wasn't taking classes in taking down about 20 to 30 villains.
Happy
had Shield's involvement in this.
Happy's just his little Dudley little
Buddy.
fucking his
I
bodyguard.
saw it. I saw it as training because the way that sequence is portrayed, it's clear that he's teaching Tony the ropes, or else if it was just playing around, he wouldn't have made that comment about dirty boxing.
Yeah.
That would make that statement more apt if there had Shield's involvement in this film. If there was even a small little cameo with Fury, with Black Widow, I would say that your statement is totally correct.
Until Captain America comes out, we can't accurately account for Shield. So,
honestly though, I can't imagine Tony Stark being that good of a fighter to be able to hold his own when he fought Killian at the end. And Killian's lightning fast, and he is just like keeping up with him at every pace. Like, I don't know. I don't think he was that good of a fighter.
I didn't see a man keeping up with Killian at every pace. I saw him desperately trying to get the upper hand.
Yeah, well, he would have been completely knocked out of frame like long before. Like, if you have no fighting skills and you're keeping up with a guy who's at like I said, lightning fast.
And also, sorry, Nick.
I'm sorry.
And also, Killian is supposed to be a monster. Right? These guys tear through suits, and yet Stark is standing toe to toe with him.
Was he lightning fast? I don't remember him being that fast.
I'm trying to remember.
And I would have thought that Killian had the fighting skills of an average person, and they would be on even grounds anyway.
In the bar, that
modified. He's got like this drug in his system. He's breathing fire. His body is like at high temperatures. Even in the suit, Tony had to jump out every 5 minutes when the guy was like setting the bloody thing ablaze. And you're telling me that he could keep toe to toe with him? The one thing that makes Stark, and the one thing that makes his character apart from Iron Man, is the fact that Stark's immensely intelligent. So I can understand him outwitting someone, but outfighting someone, no. Especially with hand-to-hand combat.
Well, let's go around the table again and kind of wrap up the Iron Man stuff, because this has been going on for a while. If you had to give it a score, 1 to 10, what would you give it? Brandon?
I'm gonna go 7 out of 10. Like, it wasn't a perfect movie. I thought it does fit in well with the series, though. I would have loved to see a Shield cameo. I would have loved to see a little bit more callbacks to the earlier films. But I enjoyed it, and I watched it. I would watch it again.
Ashley?
I'd give it an 8.
Nikki?
Wait, what?
1 to 10 score, what would you give it?
Probably a 7.5.
Sam?
Well, you know what? After coming out of the theater, I probably would have given it about a 3 or a 4.
You probably would have given it a 2 the way you were pissed off.
Negative 76 with the way he was talking about it.
But you know what? After thinking about it, I intend to go see it again because I need to see it a second time, knowing the twist. I think I'm going to give it a 5.
Larry?
7.
Burhan?
I'm going with Sam. I'll give it a 5.
No, I changed mine. I'm giving it a 6.5.
Sean?
I'd also give it a 7.
Nick?
As the average moviegoer, I would give it a 7.5. As a Marvel fanboy, I would give it a 3. And a half. I'll be generous.
Doing this on a perspective of a typical movie. If it was an Iron Man movie, like if I saw it the way as like the whole fanboy thing, yeah, it'd be like a 2.
Yeah, I'm being generous and giving it a 3.5. So, yeah.
Well, I'm being generous with a 5.
So yeah, I'm kind of glad that everybody was close around like the 6.5, 7 mark, because that's about where I am too, and it's for the same kind of reasons. There are flaws in it, both as a movie and as an Iron Man movie, and there are some great things that they do both as a movie and as an Iron Man movie. I mean, how can you not love the fact that there were so many armors in this movie as a Marvel Comics fan, and how could you not be at least a little bit annoyed that you didn't that Igor wasn't called Hulkbuster, or that
I'm sorry to cut you off. I really am. But the Hulkbuster armor, this fucking, it could keep up with the Hulk. This fucking giant armor, and the only purpose that it serves in the entire fucking movie is to hold up a fucking, like, whatever they were on, the fucking platform that they were on. That's the
And
only
to burst
thing that
through
it did. Yeah, it bursted through these fucking these goddamn crates and fucking like storage fucking whatever box.
yeah, but if
probably
you see
prototype.
promotional images for it, you go, they're gonna put Hulkbuster in this, and then you don't get it. So it's
I
disappointing.
was so excited, and the only part that the fucking Hulkbuster armor was in was the part that they showed in the fucking trailer.
You could tell it wasn't going to get a bigger part than that.
I knew, and also the fact that they called it Igor. Jesus Christ, what hump?
So the Young Frankenstein reference for him.
That was a Young Frankenstein.
Nice.
I'm thankful. So thankful that you got that. Yeah.
I think he's thankful.
I'm thankful. Jesus Christ, I'm fucking thankful.
So actually, because this is going for a long time, I'm going to cut the Iron Man 3 stuff with this, and we're going to move in the next part with some generic Phase 2 talk.